or say something in the chat. I would ask, though, if you could please mute yourself during the meeting unless you have a question to ask. That way everyone can hear everything said. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so if you've been in the other previous ARPA chats, we're going to do something a little different today. We're going to go through the full ARPA walkthrough like we normally do, and then I will show you one that I actually helped a municipality complete. I think it might be helpful to share my screen and show you the specific steps instead of the PowerPoint. So we'll do both methods today. I don't know if anyone's here from the Office of Grants Management Enterprise Services, but that's OMES for short. They were in charge of distributing the ARPA funds to the municipalities. So the official ARPA money is listed on the state of Oklahoma's website. And they're also in charge of helping distribute the information to those municipalities who have actually not completed the report from 2024. So you may be one of those municipalities. If so, you really need to sign on to that report and complete it as soon as possible. The Treasury has said that they will actually be asking for the funds back if those municipalities do not complete the report from 2024. So that's all the reason why you also want to complete it for 2025. Okay, these are just some of the best links, I think, of where to go to if you have questions about ARPA. ARPA reporting walkthrough. All right, the very first step is to use portal.treasury.gov/compliance as the website. If you use any other website, it will not let you complete the report. Google Chrome is actually the best browser to use for this. Okay, I don't know if there's anyone here on the call who does not have access to the report, but if you do not, you need to email the Treasury today stating your reasoning of why you do not have access to the report or why you cannot log in. Someone from your municipality was given access originally. That person may no longer be here.
Okay, all right.
Or you may have some issue in trying to get their login to work. If that's the case, you'll need to email slfrf@treasury.gov. So again, just make sure someone in your municipality is doing that really today, because it takes the Treasury a long time to respond to those emails and give you access. So the Treasury actually has a template of what to say in that email. Here's what it looks like. The Treasury sent this to me actually yesterday in one of the municipalities I was helping. So just in the subject line, you would say the name of your municipality and then account access. In the body, you would say what your job title is, the community name, the state that you're requesting to be linked to the community's account. Just really think about giving them as much information as possible with your name, title, email, phone number, your community address with a zip code, and then you also need to include your signature block. So if you don't give this detailed information, the Treasury will email you back in a week or 2 weeks and say, hey, we need all of this information. So it's better to provide this information at the start. If you have access to the report and you just need to update it for next year, or if you want somebody else to complete the ARPA report in your municipality, there are specific steps on how to do that on page 87 through 93 of the project and expenditure report. Basically, you just click on the menu button and then account, and then it will let you update who does the reporting. So if you've emailed the Treasury and they granted you access to log in, or if this is your very first time logging in and your email is associated with the municipality, you can click create an account, and then it will allow you to create an account which is associated with your municipality. If for some reason you forgot your password, just click on that forgot password button. Otherwise, you can sign in. If you no longer have access to your authentication method, you may have to delete your account. So this would be if you have a login and you have the password, but you don't have access to that cell phone number that the codes are being texted to. If you're still having trouble with logging in and you're not getting any responses from that slfrf@treasury.gov, the Treasury does have another email. It's COVID IT relief support at treasury.gov. You just need to email them with the specific issues. So this is for other login issues that you may be having as well. You can also call the login.gov help desk and the Treasury help desk. I would strongly encourage you to give them your ticket number from the email. That will help them associate you with the correct ticket number. Okay, once you're finally into the report, the next step is completing it. So you'll click on Compliance Reports on the left-hand side of your screen, and then you're going to click on that blue edit pencil for the 2025 report, which says Draft. So if you notice here on this screen, it says 2023, yours will say 2025, and then it will have that blue edit pencil displaying that it's in draft status. So after you click on that, it will take you to the bulk upload page. This page only applies to larger municipalities who received well over 10 million. Think about like Oklahoma City and Tulsa, or if your project, if you have lots of different projects to submit, this is for you. Otherwise, you can just scroll down to the bottom and click next. That will take you to the recipient profile page. On this page, you want to make sure that your information is correct. Likely your UEI number will be displayed, your TIN number, your address. Just make sure all that looks okay. And then you will probably need to update your fiscal year end date. So for most municipalities, that's going to be the end of June. Your municipality could be different. It would depend on when your fiscal year end date, like you might have a year-end fiscal end date. Just make sure that that number is correct. Okay, there's a new question this year about a UEI number. If you do not know your UEI number, you can go to sam.gov and find your UEI number, or it will be displayed on that screen. So let me go back here. It should be displayed right here at the top of your recipient information. If it's not, you'll have to look it up. But then you'll need to put that in the box where they want your UEI number. You'll also receive a question that asks if you're registered in sam.gov. You need to select yes if you're registered in sam.gov. If you're not, it will ask you a series of prompts. The Treasury wants everyone to be registered in sam.gov, so it will ask what you're doing to be registered. Okay, there's a new question this year about obligations. So it's asking whether you have obligated your amounts by that December 31st of 2024 deadline. So obligation, it's a specific phrase by the Treasury, and it does not mean simply passing a resolution or doing anything like that. It means that you're actually legally obligating the funds. So signing a contract, issuing a purchase order, doing something else like that that would legally require you to pay the funds in the future. So on this question, you want to say, yes, you have obligated the funds by the deadline. As a reminder, that obligation deadline was December 31st of 2024. You actually have to spend your funds, meaning that they go out of your bank account by December 31st of 2026. All right, is there anyone here who thinks that they might have had some issues meeting that obligation deadline? Okay, well, if your municipality thinks you may have had some issues meeting that obligation deadline, like if you didn't sign a contract or do something, you can use it on personnel costs. And Brenda from Crawford and Associates is on the call. I'll have her talk a little bit about what exactly that means.
Hello. Okay, if you're going to use it on personnel cost, you have to have had those employees hired by December 31st of 2024. And then after that, you can use their cost through the end of the grant to be able to be as part of your allowable ARPA expenses. Now, one thing I do want to remind you of is go through and make sure that your total obligations, if you're doing construction projects or whatever, equals what the money they gave you, all three payments. If not, then claim rest of it under personnel cost. That way you don't have to send any money back. But you have to have had the people hired prior to December 31st, 2024 to be able to claim the personnel cost.
Yes. Thank you, Brenda. Are there any questions at all about personnel costs? Okay, it is important to note that if you decide to use personnel costs, you need to put those estimates in your project description. So it says here, if recipients elects to provide an estimate for such personnel costs, recipients must, one, determine the amount of funds the recipient estimates it will use, document the reasonable justification for the estimate, and three, report that amount to the Treasury by April 30th, 2025. Okay, I see we have some questions here in the chat. The person doing our ARPA report is gone. We've already obligated our funds. Do we still need to report? Yes, Lorraine answered this one. Yes, you do need to still report, even if that person is gone. So that's an important thing to note. The Treasury has not issued any guidance yet on how to close out your report. Even if you've already obligated and spent all of your funds, the Treasury has said that you still need to report every year. They could be issuing some guidance in the future. We haven't seen that yet. This is just a reminder. Most of you hopefully didn't spend your funds on these things, but this is what you cannot spend your ARPA money on. So paying off a debt, replenishing financial reserves. You cannot use ARPA funds to pay a settlement agreement, judgment, a consent decree, or other judicially confirmed debt. You can't use it to undermine COVID-19 mitigation practices. And you also cannot violate state law. So just because this is federal award money does not mean you get to go around the Competitive Bidding Act. You still have to follow that and all other state laws that may apply. Okay, there are several different categories that you can use the ARPA funds on. Category 6.1, which is government services, is what all municipalities should be using if they received less than $10 million. So the Treasury actually recommends that you do not use any other category if you received less than $10 million. The reason for this is because it makes reporting a lot easier, and also it allows you to use your funds on general government services, which is very broad. As you can see here, they have a list of different things that they use it on, but it does say that this list is not exhaustive, and government services is the most flexible category. Funds are subject to streamlined reporting and compliance requirements. So really you need to think of this as any service traditionally provided by a government. And this does include personnel costs, as we talked about a couple slides ago. Okay, as Brenda mentioned, you really want to make sure that you have obligated all of your funds on this report before you click submit. In order to do that, the Treasury has added in a feature here on this report that says remaining funds that will be lost if not obligated by December 31st of 2024. So here for this person's report, they had $55,000 that they needed to show where they had obligated those funds. So this number really needs to say 0 before you click submit on your report. If it says anything else, you should not click submit. Next question is, up to and including this reporting period, have revenue replacement funds been allocated to government services? So you would say yes on this to use that revenue replacement category. This next question, it just asks whether you understand if your funds will have to be returned or not. So you want to say yes, you do understand that you'll have to return those funds if they're not shown as obligated. Again, the Treasury is very serious about having those funds be returned. They've issued guidance on how to have those funds returned to the states. Okay, any questions about that so far? All right, we have a question in the chat. I'll read it here. We had employees quit and are hiring new employees to fill their positions. Can the new employee wages be paid under personnel costs since the positions were established before the deadline? So, great question. You can pay them for that position. Can't be any new positions. So, let me go back really quick here. So the position just has to be established and filled prior to December 31st of 2024. Doesn't have to be the exact employee. So Brenda, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, as long as the position was there and filled prior to, if somebody quits, then you can refill the position and use it.
Okay, after you answer those initial questions, now is the next step, which is the most important part of the entire report, is adding projects and editing your projects. So if you have a new project, you would just click that Add a New Project button. If you need to edit your projects that have been submitted in the past, you will click on this yellow edit pencil. So if you submitted a project in the past, you will have to update it and at least say nothing has changed if nothing in fact has changed. So again, you'll just click that yellow edit pencil, or it might be a green check mark if you need to reopen it and it's already been submitted. The user guide, it really gives step-by-step instructions about adding a new project. It's important to look at that, make sure you're following everything. When you click on that Add a New Project button, or when you click on that yellow edit pencil, this is the screen that you will see. So the first question here from the drop-down box is the project expenditure category group. You want to choose category 6 here, which is revenue replacement, and then your subcategory will be 6.1, which is the provision of government services. As this note says, you do not have to do all the other reporting if you choose category 6. And also the Treasury does recommend that you only use category 6. You can name your project something broad if you want it to cover multiple projects, or you can name it something more specific. So let's say you have 2 different projects that you use your ARPA money on. One was fire hydrants and the other was personnel costs. You could name one project fire hydrants and then click add a new project, and that second project be personnel costs. Or you could say your project name is something broad like revenue replacement, and then in your project description, you could say it is for fire hydrants and personnel costs. Next is the recipient project ID. So this can be whatever number you want. It's really for your record. So if you have an accounting system and it would make sense to use a specific number, you could put that there. Adopted budget, that only applies to municipalities with over 250,000 in population. Next is total cumulative obligation. This kind of tricks people up sometimes. Again, an obligation is defined as actually, signing a contract, issuing a purchase order, doing something that would legally require you to pay in the future. So whatever you've actually obligated, you would put in that box. So if this is a broad project like revenue replacement, you would put in your total award amount if you're just doing one project into the total cumulative obligations. Otherwise, this would just be a portion. So if you have those 2 projects, let's say your total award was $100,000. Your first project, you spent $50,000 on fire hydrants. The total cumulative obligation would say $50,000 for fire hydrants. And then your next project would say the remaining amount of funds for that other project. Total cumulative expenditures, that's what you've actually spent on this project across all of the different reporting periods. So, it doesn't just have to be in the past year. It's whatever you've spent since you got these ARPA funds on this project. Next is current period obligations and current period expenditures. This is what you spent during this reporting period or obligated during this reporting period. So for instance, think of the time period here as April 1st of 2024 until March 31st of 2025. Anything that you obligated or spent during that time period, you'll have to put in those two boxes there. Okay, we have a question here. We obligated our funds to an upcoming sewer project. We found out later that we may be able to receive a reimbursable grant for the project. If we haven't used all or any of the ARPA funds and we do receive the grant, do we then use the funds for employees who were hired in the past? Yes. So the Treasury does have specific guidance on what to do if you obligated the funds towards something, and then that needs to change based on the conditions. You can do that. You just need to follow the frequently asked questions. And then when I get done with this, I'll show you where to find that frequently asked question for guidance on that. But using personnel costs would be the next best thing to do if you can no longer use it for what you originally obligated it for. So great question. Okay, next are the program income earned and program income expended boxes. So you wouldn't fill those out. This year there are several boxes for that. You wouldn't fill those out unless you've actually earned income on a project. And that does not mean like interest earned. So, Brenda, if you want to talk a little bit about what program income earned means there.
Program income, and here it's pretty limited. If somehow you're making money, like you have a housing project and you're charging rent, that is considered program income. For most of you, you're not going to earn any program income on these projects. And the thing I wanted to stress that Christian already did is that interest income does not count as program income. So that you don't have to claim it and then show that you spent it back on this. I mean, it's a great use to expand your projects, but it does not qualify as program income. And we see that mainly when people are doing housing type projects. So I don't think any of you will fall under that program income category.
Are there any questions at all about that? All right. After the program income boxes, you'll have to give a project description, and then you also have to put your start date and finish date and the status to completion. So your status to completion, you need to change that to completed if you've already spent all of your funds and the project's over. Your project start date and your project end date, that can be different for your municipality. The federal government didn't actually give real definitions of what project start date means and project end date. Just says the date the project started and the date the project ended. So, it needs to be after you got the award funds is when you would say that the project started. And then your project end date would be whenever it was done. Okay, this just gives a description of what these different boxes mean here. This is directly from the Project and Expenditure Report User Guide. The adopted budget, as we talked about, you only have to do if you have a population over 250,000. Obligations and expenditures definitions, these are the trickiest part of the report is filling these boxes out correctly. Just make sure that you're following these definitions closely. I'll actually go back here and show you how to, if you forget what these definitions actually mean, you can scroll over the little I right next to total cumulative obligations, and it will display what that actually means. So if you forget, no worries, just scroll over that and it will tell you what it actually means. Oh, sorry. Again, that current period, April 1st of 2024 till March 31st of 2025. Your project description needs to be pretty well written about giving the Treasury description of where your ARPA funds are actually going. The Treasury is not making you submit any type of documentation or any PDFs, anything like that. So you really need to provide them a really good description. There is a chance that they could audit these funds later on down the road. So you want to hold on to that information. But in this project description box, you just really need to let them know where the funds are going so they don't have any questions. Specifically, it says you need to provide a description between 50 to 1,000 words. Each description should be 3 to 5 sentences with an overview of the project, which includes a description of the project's purpose, population being served, desired outcome of the project, and how the outcome is being measured. Here's an example from a Treasury video of a project description. If you notice, they did a broader project here. Instead of doing multiple projects, they decided to do one large project for this example and call it revenue replacement. The project description here just says funds were used for teacher salaries and building a new playground. So they've got those two different projects under this one project name. The next description they gave as an example, this one's a little more specific. It's specific to firehouse staffing. So they named the project firehouse staffing, and they said this project used $1 million in ARPA funds to retain 6 full-time and part-time firefighting staff in our town. It also helped cover administrative costs associated with these 6 staff. So if you're using the funds for staffing or personnel expenses, a description like this would be something good to include. If you report under this category 6, you do not have to report on the subrecipients, beneficiaries, all that additional information. After you're done submitting all your projects, you will scroll down to the bottom of that page and then click Next. When you click on Next, it will take you to the revenue replacement page. On this page, you just want to put in yes, that you are wanting to use the ARPA funds on the revenue replacement. So that's the very first question there. It says, is your jurisdiction electing to use a standard allowance? So you would say yes. The next question is, what is your revenue loss due to COVID-19 public health emergency? This is a tricky question. They're not actually asking how much you lost during COVID. What they want to know is how much you want to take under the revenue loss category. If you notice here, you can elect up to 10 million. So you want to put in your entire award amount here. So your entire award amount will be displayed on the right-hand side of your screen. It will say allocated amount and then the exact amount. Just retype that amount into this box here. Make sure those two boxes match up. If you're curious about that number, for some reason it's not displayed, you can go to the state of Oklahoma's website and it will show there.
And Christian, I'm going to post in the chat the link to the state of Oklahoma website.
Okay, thank you.
So that you can each check your 3 payments at this website. You just look it up alphabetically.
Yeah, it's very helpful to look at that, especially if you're wondering, where these funds were or what account they were put into. I know, there's been some change in positions in some municipalities, so it really helps to just take another look at that and go back through your records and make sure you know exactly where the funds are or where they were spent. There are no questions about this. We'll go on to the next page. All right. So there is a text box for revenue replacement, and you want to make sure and put in that box a description similar to the descriptions that you put in your other boxes about where the ARPA funds are going and what the projects have been allocated towards. One example that they gave here is revenue replacement funds are being used to maintain current levels of services of the local government, including the salaries of 3 firefighters and related operations and maintenance fees associated with the department's emergency vehicles. Additional funds were used to maintain and service street lamps in the downtown area, as well as a project to rebuild the sidewalks on the commercial district. So really, again, they're just giving that good description of where the ARPA funds are actually going. I will note, if you have a pre-populated answer from last year, you'll probably need to update that. For a lot of municipalities, they put in, funds will go to something, and now those funds have gone there. So you'll just need to change the language there to update it to where your funds actually have gone. Okay, next is the audit questions, and I'll let Brenda talk about those.
Okay. The federal government requires you to have what is referred to as a single audit. If you spend more than $750,000 in federal money in any 1 year. So that's the first thing you have to ask yourself. If I take my ARPA money I spent plus any other federal money I received, does it exceed $750,000? If it does, then you are subject to the single audit. So, and this is based upon your fiscal year. So for this reporting period, you're going to go look at, if you're a June 30 year end, were you subject to June single audit at June 30th, 2024? If you're a September year end, it's September 24. If you're a December year end, in December. So that's the first question: is were you subject to single audit at the end of your last fiscal year? And that is if you spent over $750,000 in federal money. I don't know how many of you are subject to that. A lot of you are smaller towns that may not get that amount of money, but let's say for the first time ever, because of ARPA, it threw you into the single audit. If it did, there is an alternative procedures that can be done so that you don't have to go through the full-blown single audit, which can be a little bit costly. If you want to try the alternative procedures, you need to get with your auditor and talk to them about that and see if you are eligible for that. Because basically what the alternative procedures are saying is, if you were never going to be subject to a single audit, but the only reason you are is because you spent your ARPA money, then there's procedures they can just do on that ARPA money to make you in compliance. So if that's the case you're in, get with your auditor on that and have them walk you through it. I cannot honestly tell you if it will be cheaper and if it will reduce their work that much, but it is something worth exploring.
Are there any questions at all about that? Oh, go ahead, Brenda.
Oh, go ahead. That's all I've got.
Okay. All right. After you answer those two questions, that will take you to the certification page where you just click certify and submit. After you click submit, it will give you a status, and it will say, yes, you've submitted it. You should see a green check mark across the top of your screen. If you do not, and it says there are errors, it will tell you exactly what the error is on the right-hand side. So, on the screen here, it will display something where it says error, and then you can see what the error is, click on that, and then change your answers accordingly. Likely, you just missed one of the boxes, like filling in your fiscal year end date or something like that. But after you click that certify and submit, it will take you to a survey. You do not need to complete that survey. You just need to scroll to the bottom and click submit survey. After that, you can download the report for your files. So you can go back to the compliance reports page, click on this gray download box, and then it will download a report for you of your ARPA report. If you notice, it will say submitted under the status where it used to say draft as well. So that's how you know that you are done with your report and you're in compliance with the reporting deadlines. There is some new information this year about closing out your award. It's important to note that there's no way to actually close out your award. They just ask you a simple question here, if you are ready to close out or not. So you would just indicate yes or no. The Treasury has said in forthcoming guidance that they will issue information on how to close out the report. But for now, your municipality should plan to report again next year in April. So just updating what you've done over the past year in that report. If you notice, there's a new closeout reports tab, and it will say you have no reports eligible for closeout. I would add here, if you have any questions or if you're not sure, don't submit your report until you're sure that you're done. Once you click submit, you won't be able to edit it again after April 30th. Um, you can reopen it between now and April 30th if you absolutely have to, but otherwise you cannot edit it after April 30th. So just make sure that you're putting in everything correctly. The only way you'll be able to edit your projects is in next year in April. All right. Are there any questions so far? No, we covered a lot. We have a question in the chat. I'll read it here. On the prior year's projects that were submitted in the first reporting period, since those projects were closed on the new report in the current period, do we put 0 since nothing has changed? You can't edit previous reports, but you can edit previous projects. So if nothing has changed on those projects and you didn't spend anything during this reporting period, or you didn't obligate anything during this reporting period, you will simply put 0 in the current period obligations and current period expenditures. Otherwise, you would actually have to put in the amount that you've either obligated or spent during this reporting period. Does that answer your question? Yep. Here, another question. What if the obligation has changed and you aren't going to use it on that? You can delete a project and start a new project if you want. When you click on that project overview page and you click on that yellow edit check mark, it will allow you to delete a project, and you can click add a new project and start a new one. Or you could simply, rename the project to what you actually spent it on and update it that way.
And one thing I would stress is once you have all your projects entered, if you're doing just one or if you have multiple, look at that total cumulative obligation and add them up for all of the projects and make sure it equals that amount on the right-hand side of the screen that shows how much you got. Because you had to have showed everything obligated by December 31st. So if this report doesn't show everything obligated, there's concerns the federal government's going to ask you for money back, and we don't want anybody to have to return any money. So make sure your total project obligations equals the total amount you got.
All right. Does anyone have any more questions? Okay, I'm going to show you the frequently asked question document that the Treasury's put together specifically for the question about funds that were initially obligated but ultimately not expended. So share my screen here, but this is directly from the frequently asked question. It does say that you may have funds that were obligated but ultimately not expended. So in that case, you can use the ARPA funds for personnel costs is what I would say would be the best thing to use it for. This also gives some other examples here. Um, expenses that are necessary to meet certain legal requirements, cover personnel expenses, and also you can do it in excess of the initial estimate. So hope that answers your question, but I'll put this hyperlink into the chat for you. And this is FAQ 17.19. Also, Brenda put in a link to this earlier, but I'll just show you here on the screen as well. So the local fiscal recovery fund on the state of Oklahoma's website, if you click on funding allocations, it will take you directly to how much your municipality has received. So for example, here you get to see the different payments and then the final payment amount. There's a redistribution amount in the middle. That only is for a redistribution of the funds that were not originally allocated to the 50 or so municipalities that didn't accept the award funds. So for example, this $33 was based off of the population of Paradise Hill, and the funds were redistributed based on those 50 or so who did not accept the funds. So that's why you have 3 payments, and one of those is probably a lot smaller. Any other questions about that?
Hey, Christian,
Yes.
would you go back to that link and pull it down to prior?
Yes.
You were almost there. Thank you.
So is it
Right there, prior creek.
Yeah. So you guys got 1.6.
Would you picture that? Just that whole screen.
So Brenda talked about that, the federal audit clearinghouse requirements. You guys would have to likely comply with that if you spent more than 750,000 in 1 year. So have you talked to your auditor yet about the single audit?
Huh? I guess we have.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure on that.
Thank you.
Yep. There any other questions at all? See, also if you go on the call, I'll just show you really quick what Hugo got. So a little over 8.5 or 800, 800,900. Yeah. Sorry, words are hard today. But there's your amount if you want to look at it. So if you go ask if you spent more than 750,000 in 1 year, I would have no way of knowing that. You would have to look and see whether you did. You'd be right on that line of whether or not you would have to comply with a single audit. Do you know who your auditor is? Would they be able to help you with that? Okay, good. Yeah, as Brenda mentioned, it's not just the ARPA funds, it's also, any other federal award funds that you would have gotten. So if you, for some reason, spent all of your ARPA money in 1 year, then you would be subject to that single audit rule, and you would have to do the single audit. Okay, so I'll show you really quick on when these funds were distributed. So, sharing the wrong screen, but you can see here that it's that first payment came between October 2021 and May of 2022. Second one was in September 1st through September 15th of 2022, and then the third one was the end of September. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'll just show everyone what the actual report looks like really quick. It might be helpful for you if you are a little confused by the PowerPoint. So this is a walkthrough I did with a municipality. If you just click on that edit pencil right after you log in, again, your report will say draft status. So you just click on that blue edit pencil. After you do that, it'll take you to that bulk upload page. You just scroll to the bottom here and click next. Here you just want to make sure your fiscal year end date's good and that all the other information is filled out. If you need to put your UEI number in here, again, you can find that on sam.gov. And then you need to answer the question about whether you're registered in sam.gov, click save, and then you'll just check this box to say your point of contacts are accurate. After you do that, save your changes and then take you to the My Projects page. Again, the most important part of the whole report. It will ask you if you want to use the revenue replacement. Here you would say yes, you do want to use that revenue replacement. If you notice, this number is way off. This number needs to be 0 right here. That's the number that says remaining funding that will be lost if not obligated by that December 31st deadline. That should say 0. Here you need to attest that you understand you'll have to return those funds if this number is anything else but 0. So you just say yes there. Okay, here's where you'll see projects that you've already submitted. So for this municipality, they had a project named Street Resurfacing that they did last year. Here you can either add a new project or edit that project. To edit it, you would just click on this yellow edit pencil. Here, they click on the yellow edit pencil and it takes you to the actual project. This municipality actually used the wrong expenditure category. It was under a category 9. So they changed this to category 6 because when you report under that category 9, it asks you lots of questions and information and it makes it really hard to complete the report. So they changed this to category 6 and then keep the name of the project. Then they just update it accordingly with what's been done since the last year. So, updating those total cumulative expenditures, total cumulative obligations, and current period expenditures with the correct amounts. And filling out the status of completion and project start date and project end date. So for this project, it turned out they'd only spent $53,000, a little over, during this reporting period. So that's why all 4 of these boxes are the same. This project was for all streets, were repaved and repaired. After she did that, she got 3 green check marks, which is what you're looking for. If you do not have 3 green check marks, you've done something wrong. After you do that, it will ask you about revenue replacement key inputs, and you want to select yes, you are using revenue replacement. And then again, putting in how much you lost during COVID-19, which really means how much you want to take under the revenue loss category. So they put in their allocated amount into this box right here. And then they said no to using the fiscal recovery funds. And then they gave an accurate description of where the funds actually went. So the revenue replacement funds were allocated for street repaving. Next, it asks if they want to close out their report or if they're ready to, and they would say yes here. You can't actually close out the report, but you're just indicating to the Treasury that you are ready. After that, they answer the federal audit clearinghouse questions. This municipality was not close to spending $750,000, so they just answered no. And then same with that next question. After that, they click certify and submit, and then submit, and they get this green success check mark here at the top. It says success, your report has been submitted. After that, you can scroll to the bottom, click submit survey, and then dismiss this warning. And then you are done with the report, and you have the option to download the report for your records if you would like. And that is the end. So are there any questions at all about that?
I do recommend that you download the report when given the option because your auditor is going to ask for a copy of it more than likely. So just go ahead and download it at the time you finish it.
Great point. Yeah, otherwise you'd have to log in, and logging in is one of the hardest parts to do with this thing. So
Christian, question that comes up that we're getting a lot at the office is I completed the report and I've already hit submit. I did it last week, but now I think I made an error. Can they go back in and change it before April 30th once they've hit submit?
yes, you can go back in and change it. So after the April 30th deadline, you are not able to, but between now and then you can. So you should be able to click on this little I right here. Let me pull this up. So on this report that says submitted, and then you can download and provide information. If you click on that I, it will take you back to the report. You can go to the very end of the report where you click certify and submit, and then click unsubmit. So you can unsubmit that, edit whatever you need to, and then click on certify and submit when you really need to. So great question, though. I've been getting that question a lot lately, too.
And just so you're aware, and it may have been a one-day thing, we had somebody yesterday who went in, updated all their projects, got everything done, and tried to submit, and it kept telling them that they hadn't completed it, and it's because their little pencils hadn't turned green. They logged out, went to lunch, came back, and when they logged back in, everything had turned to green, and then they could submit. So if you have that problem, you might give it a little bit of time, and then when you come
Yeah.
back, hopefully it will have fixed itself.
Yeah. Yeah, the Treasury system that they use is through Salesforce. So if you've heard of that company, so I mean, software has issues sometimes. So patience is key.
Oh, there's a couple questions. The first one.
Okay.
I may have missed the answer to this while I was updating my projects, but on the revenue replacement key inputs on the 10 million, what do we select there?
So if I think you're talking about the right page, you'd click yes. You do want to select up to 10 million, if that's the question that you're asking. Let me go back to that page and I can show you.
They responded, thank you, so that must be it. The other question
Okay.
is, what is the submission date deadline? You have to submit by April 30th.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, if you have any other questions, feel free to unmute yourself too. I'd be glad to talk to you, or you could also share your screen and we could look at what your specific problem is on the report. Kelsey, for your question that we just answered, I just want to show you you would select yes here on that question if your jurisdiction's electing to use a standard allowance. So. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, you can leave at any point you want. The meeting's over, but if you have questions, feel free to stay on. I'll remain on for a little while longer. Thank you all for coming. Brenda, if you're still on, thanks for coming today.
Hey, no problem. I'll see you again next Tuesday.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, we'll have hardly anyone on that meeting and everyone's finished their report, because that's like right before the deadline. I didn't even realize that when I set it up, but we'll see.
Well, hopefully everybody gets them turned in time. So
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. I'm still nervous about that list of 50 or so municipalities from 2024 that didn't complete their report. So we'll see.
yes, that one's
But
concerning to me too.
I helped one of them, and we emailed the treasury at the end of March, and I just received a response yesterday. So
Oh,
they're taking
goodness.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know
Yeah.
Christy and our office has helped a couple get caught up that was
Good.
behind. So I
Good.
know we got a couple of them off the list.
Good. Good. All right. Well, I'm going to end the meeting. So thanks again for coming.